Mark last year did a measuring seminar for NOMMA at the convention. I've done a couple of webinars for measuring for NOMMA. And last year at the convention, after Mark got done, we got to talking to each other and said, okay, what are we missing? You know, we've done the one at the convention, we've done the webinars, what are we missing here? And what we finally realized is we need to get hands-on with people. So what we've done is we've split this up into a couple different sections. We actually asked Martha if we could have two education session time frames. The first one we're going to get into is we're going to talk a little bit about what equipment we use, and Mark and I pretty much use the same equipment. We may use different brands, but theory-wise we use the same stuff. He does some things I do. I use e-template and some things for other stuff. So you're going to see some commonality. You're going to see we go across each other. First thing we're going to do is equipment, and then we're going to get into what do we use in the office. Once we bring this stuff back in, what do we use in the office to make the office work, to get the drawings out, to get the details out to the shop. And then we'll go into some really basics of how would we measure a stair, how would we measure curves, stair, balconies, and all that. And the reason we're doing this is we have kind of a mixed bag of people in here. We have everybody from really basic, that's maybe their first convention, to very advanced people. And we don't know, we can't tailor it for one group without worrying about the other group. So as we go through this, we don't have a set time limit. Once we get done with the education portion, we have a stair set aside from the hotel that if people want to go work on a stair, they want us to help them measure a stair, they want to use our equipment, we've got time to do that. And so we don't have a time frame on what we do. So if you have questions while we're going through, if you don't understand something, or you say, I do it a little differently, we'll stop and do that. And then once we get done with all the questions, if we have people that want to go from that point on, we'll go to the stair. We also have AutoCAD 2D, 3D, FabCAD, SolidWorks, and all the bells and whistles here. If you want to mess with it, or if you're having a particular problem, we can help you with. If it's something Mark and I can't help you with, we have a stacked audience here, so we know there's probably the answer sitting in this audience. And there's a few nerds that can use. So that's kind of the way we structured it. It's going to be very basic when we get into the measurements, but if you want to get more detail, we'll take you all the way to the advanced side. We've got stuff on our laptops that show you, if you want to go to the advanced side, it shows you what the e-template output looks like into the 3D. We've got the 3D disto unit inputs. Dave Randall from e-template is going to stop by a little bit partway through this, and he's doing a demo in the trade show this morning on the e-laser, which takes the 3D disto and massages it through the computer and gets an output into 3D from that end. So it's a little different output. So like I say, we're going to work on the basics. We're going to talk about the basics, talk about the differences maybe that we do. But then if you want to get into advanced, we're willing to get into advanced, and we'll do whatever you want. So we have 3 hours or more. At the end, Mark and I will flash our email addresses up. If you have a question after the meeting, you can catch us while we're at the show. We also have go-to-meetings, so if you saw something you're not sure about, we can hook you up to our computers. You can watch us do it on our computers, or you can play with our computers to do it. We have, I think, every piece of software here that we use, with the only exception, the one I'm going to show you is Bluebeam. I don't have that one on this laptop. But we've got everything here to play with. We've got D5, D8 Leicas. We've got a lot of our equipment, and you're welcome to use it, play with it. I drop it occasionally, so if that's not a concern, it will come back though. Do not walk away with the equipment. So you can take a lot of things from it, but you can't take my Leica D8 out of my cold dead hands. So that's kind of the way it gets to. The first disclaimer we want to do though is the disclaimer we always have to do is we have no financial interest in any of the products we're going to show you. We do not have the ability to show you anything without saying these are the products that we use. So you're all smart people. It won't take a lot to figure out that these are the ones we endorse because we use them. But we're not saying you need to go buy this brand, that brand, or whatever. We're just saying, yeah, we're not a commercial. We're just saying, if you like the laser equipment, there's Bosch, there's Hilti, there's Leicas, there's a dozen of them out there. Go do it. Our purpose is to try and get you to use new technology and get you out of the fear of using new technology and how easy and how profitable it will help make you. So, any questions before we start? We put this together. This was our primary thoughts. The reason we started in our company, what we did is we focused really heavily on the front end of the business. I have a machine shop background. My machine shop background says, I'm going to give this drawing to the machinist and he's going to make it exactly like he sees it. And if it's wrong, it's my fault. It's not his fault. And so that's the mentality I walk away with. When we purchased our business about 12 years ago, they were in disarray like you wouldn't believe. They would refit, template, get out the field, forget stuff, wasn't right, wasn't in the right spot, and spend all sorts of time running back and forth to the shop. We quickly put an end to that. We started going after technology, we started going after the people and saying, trust us, we can measure it better than what we were doing before. And that's the way we went at it. The other thing we did is one of the things that, and the reason we bought eTemplate and a few of the others is we got a few jobs in Barbados. We got a job that had 4 stairs. And we're sitting there going, God, I don't want to send 2 guys, 3 guys down to help measure 4 stairs. So we went to the new technology. We sent 1 person down, we measured the stairs, we came back. So that was the thing we looked at. And the other thing, I come from a machine shop background, I know intuitively that when I take a guy off the floor or out of installation to go help me measure, it's not really costing me the $75 hourly labor rate or whatever it is I charge my shop. It's costing me way more than that. Because the guy I'm taking out is the only guy that makes money. I don't make money for the company. The only one that makes money is the guy that's actually installing it, we're getting paid. So until he gets paid, there's no money. So the more I pull shop people out to go template, or installation people out to go help measure, or some guy to hold the measuring tape on that end down there, I'm taking out way more than my hourly labor rate. I'm taking out my cash flow. So we got to the point, especially if you're traveling like we were doing, there was a couple of years we did about 40% of the business out in the Caribbean. So we knew it was really going to cost us to take multiple people out to do that.
I feel it's real important. I don't want to ever be out in my truck and not have the tools I want to measure with. I have a dedicated toolbox in my truck. Whether I'm out driving home from the golf course and get a call that I could go measure a job, I have the stuff to carry. I don't want to ever have to leave my shop thinking, well, I have everything to measure a job. So it's dedicated in my truck. I don't have everything here just from the logistics of flying down, but what I carry in the truck in that duffel bag is the duffel bag for it. The range meter, digital protractor, the smart level. I got a little folding square, just reference stuff. Couple tape measures, chalk lines, dry lines, my notebook, pens, papers, spring clamps. Plumb bob, I carry my camera. What's not on there now is an iPad, take that. Just carry various little targets to set up for shooting with the laser. Having spare batteries. Torpedo levels. PLS 5 for referencing squaring and plumbing. For when we go in factories, I carry all the PPE stuff, glasses, hard hats, hearing protection. I carry little bags like this in my bag that, I just have a little screwdriver and some drywall screws in, just for if I want to put a reference or something in the wall to pull off of. Rolls of blue tape, just for putting down on carpeting or on walls, just to mark stuff up when you're doing it. The smartphone, which I guess goes back to the iPad, and contractor's calculator, which anymore is all on the iPad too. So And then in the truck, and have it, like I said, I have a rotary laser level. I don't use that much at all anymore. A tripod for it, the grade stick, hard hat and vest, the 4-foot level. I carry a 5-foot long aluminum tube. The length was dictated by the width of the toolbox on my truck. And I'll show you later on that, but what I do with that is I clamp the smart level to that tube for a longer smart level when I'm measuring stair pitch. And it comes with spacers. That's something I believe masons use when they're using a level, is just spaces out that tube to get it up off of the nose of the steps. In case there was one high nose you're not teeter-totting or not. And then there's a transit as well. Start off with the laser range meter. So I use a Leica D5. I've used Bosch. I've had experience with Hilti. And I bought, the first one I bought was a Stanley, big box one. Comes down to pay for what you get. The Stanley, I remember the night I bought it, I had it in my house. I set it on the kitchen table, I shot the ceiling, and I shot it twice and the measurements were different. So I didn't have the confidence in that. The Bosch was a decent one, mainly for interior work. To me, on these, if you can't see the dot someplace, it's useless to you. You get outside in a bright light situation or 75 feet away or so, you can't see it. In this case here, I was shooting from the side of my truck to my neighbor's building, and the dot would have been right there. And obviously I couldn't see it, but with the Leica, they've got this little screen on them, little LCD screen, so now I can zoom in and see where that dot's at. You can see right here in the thing, my dot was bullseyed right above their window for a 77-foot 9 and whatever, a 16th distance away. These things are supposed to be accurate. I think it's a 1/16 of an inch and 650 feet.
Yeah, there's a screen for that.
Okay. This one I think was around 500 bucks.
What's the model number, Mark?
This is a Leica D5, Disto D5. Terry has a comparison later on with the D5 to D8 and the Hilti brand. When I first bought this, housing was going pretty heavy in our area. We were doing basement beams. So for me to go out to field measure it, it was dragging a second guy just to hold the dumb end of the tape. I wanted to eliminate that, and I wanted to eliminate walking through the overburden. The foundations hadn't been backfilled yet, so this way I was going up to the foundation, shooting across the basement in one shot doing it. I wasn't having to somehow clamp a tape measure on one wall and go to the other. That was what pushed me to buy it, and then from there you just go on more other things. Along with that LCD screen, this one and Terry's has another function where you can take it out of level. So, like say right now, if there was something in your way, if I'm measuring to that wall and that podium's in the way, I just take it out of level and it compensates. Right now it tells me I'm holding this at 11 degrees. I'm holding that at 13 degrees. Shooting up to that, at that 13 degrees, my measurement was 28'6", but straight across is 27'10".
Yeah.
So this allows you to get some things out of your way. It's doing the trigonometry in it, and that's just another.
That's important because if you get to a job site and you see a whole bunch of stuff stacked in front of you, you need that measurement of that wall. These units have the ability to shoot up there and calculate what it is. It's making the assumption it's 90 degrees down.
Right.
Yeah. But it saves you from trying to figure out how to get around stuff to get there. Scaffolding's in the way or whatever, these things don't care, as long as it's got a line of sight.
What's the hold control on where you're standing though?
Pardon? You would have to have it referenced to something. This has 3 different settings. You could measure off the front, measure off the back, or you could look at like a tape measure. And then You got this that points out that when you want to get into a corner, a 90-degree corner, it's gonna go tight into that corner.
You're certainly not holding it while you're doing those measurements.
You're going to something, right, you're gonna butt this up against something, oh yeah, you're gonna be all over the place, right?
And that depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a fence, you can just hold it at your body, because you know about where you're going. But if you're doing anything else, then you're gonna put it against something. And depending on how you did it the night before, whether you stayed out late that night before, you get a little bit of the shakes.
Degree of precision.
Yeah, and it's never happened to me, but the nice thing about these units is they have a timer function. So you can set the timer to whatever thing, you can get it on there, and in my case, occasionally I'll hold my breath and let the timer go off, and that steadies you from that point. Or you
Or put it on a tripod.
Yeah, or you do what we've got there is a very lightweight tripod, which you'll see in some of these things that we'll pass out to you. You've got to have the tripod to take the measures. You take a lightweight tripod, stick it in your bag, and you got it.
Didn't mean to divert you there.
No, that's fine.
That's what we're for.
What about calibration? How do you know it's always accurate? Is there calibration techniques or?
The Leica systems don't need to be calibrated. There is a calibration function, but it's one of those you don't want to mess with. You're better off giving it to your supplier or whoever sold it to you and let them deal with it. But I'm a cautious person. I pull out a tape measure every once in a while, and I do it on every job I shoot. I'll shoot something and then I'll tape measure it just in case that I bumped way off. But my Leica and my Hilti and probably Mark's has been dropped on the ground more times than you imagine. When I go to a job site, the Leica goes with me every time, my digital camera, my tape measure, and I look like I'm going into combat, honest to God. And I'm a klutz, and I'll go up a piece of scaffolding, I'll hook that sucker on there, and it'll drop 10 feet down, and I haven't hurt it yet. But I always do check it.
The reasons those cheap ones like the Stanley don't work, they're using sound waves to measure and not the light. The light is just a pointer, and it's not doing the measuring.
Didn't know that. I'll give you Mark's little tuition lesson. I had a contractor tell me once that I didn't go to college, so I make pretty good money, so every once in a while I got to pay tuition. I went on a job site and kind of eyeballed up. We knew we were going to have to rent a scissors lift to get me and a railing on a balcony. And being cheap, we went with a 40-footer, and it didn't reach. So then I paid for that to get dropped off and picked up, wait a day and get another 60-footer out there. With something like this, you can stand in a driveway. You know that, okay, right here is where a lift's got to sit. There's the balcony. I need 60 feet. What I need to do, you're not, it's eliminated a guessing game. That would pay for this tool. So an incident like that will pay for a tool like that.
The one on your left is the Hilti PD30. That was my first unit, and I got that right after coming to a NOMMA convention. I think it was Belgium. Did a demonstration on it several years ago, and we walked right out and got that small. It's every bit as good, but Mark got me onto the D8 because of the camera. The one thing that these things, the limitation these things have, is they do not like shiny surfaces. So I'll give you that little proviso, is if you're shooting toward a metal stud or if you're shooting toward a stainless steel beam or something like that and it's fairly shiny, it will not take a measure because it needs that reflection. So what you want to do is you always want to keep a little roll of blue tape with you or something like that, or something to stick a piece of blue tape on it, shoot the blue tape, and you got it. So that's the only downside I've found on these whole systems is if you're shooting direct at something that's going to reflect back, it doesn't like it, and it'll tell you it doesn't like it. But if you're shooting at an angle or something like that, you're okay. But if that's true, you blue tape it, you hit it with some paint or something, it'll take it.
Or shooting out in really bright sunlight with the Hilti.
Yeah.
Get a pair of glasses.
Trying to see the dot is.
That's the limitation with Hilti. They both have the same range, 650 feet. And if you can see 650 feet, a little red dot that far, it'll help you. But the Visto has the camera that goes with it.
The Hilti comes with that red pair of glasses. So you can see that dot outside?
No, but you can get a red pair of glasses from either one of these companies.
No, we have it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and I use that
put
on
them
my
on,
rotary.
you can see the dot.
Yeah.
I know I have a Hilti and it has, I have a monopod for it and it automatically adds in, if you're using the monopod, it automatically adds that distance into your measurement. Does the Leica do that too if you have a?
Well, the Leica is coming from the back or the front of the unit all the time. So if you're setting in a monopod, if you're setting, I don't use monopod because it's not stable. If you're setting a tripod and I shoot that corner and I turn around and shoot this corner, I've got that length because I've spun it completely around both ways.
The only issue I've had is when you're, shoot from floor to ceiling, you gotta get down on the floor with it if you're not using something to extend it up. And
These
it's hard to see
units
your-
are pretty amazing, and I'll pass this around. This is a kind of a life-size thing of what things they can do, the functions. The D8 has like 23 functions, the D5 is probably 15 or so. I use 4 or 5, anything beyond that I get confused, or the dots are too small. But I use 4 or 5 religiously. I mean, we can tell you, we can point the back of that wall and point the top of the wall, tell you from here how high that wall is. You're shooting up on a roof or something, you want to know what the roof is. We find out what the roof pitch is from down on the ground. There's a window part way up. We can tell you how far down that window is with the units. And there's a SCAD of functions that you can do if you can just figure out how to use all the functions. Mark?
So after talking to both of you last year's convention, I bought the D8 and I like it a lot, but I don't really know how to use probably half the functions right now. The one thing, it's almost too accurate. When I'm measuring with it, it gives me to a 64th or a 32nd. And I'm measuring a full ladder, so is there a way to change the fractions on it, like a calculator, so that it only gives a 10 to like that?
Yeah, there is a way to change your increments of what you want to go through, and I think there's like 10 options or something.
It goes in the metric and.
Yeah.
I think you guys should.
You can change the different options. The thing that I wish it had that it doesn't have is it does feet and inches, and I wish it would flip over and let me do inches sometimes, but it doesn't do that. So you have to be really careful if you're using your tape measure, you're taking, and I can tell you this from hindsight. If you're using your tape measure, you're taking measures, and you're using inches on your tape measure and writing it on your paper, and then you put it on the Leica and you get feet and inches. Now I've got 8 feet, 8 inches, or do I have 88 inches? So you gotta be really careful with that. But yes, you can change your, people always ask how accurate they are, and like they said, they're more accurate than anything you've used so far, way more accurate. This is the accuracy of both the Leica units and the Hilti unit. I don't know about the Bosch or the Black & Decker and all that, but very rarely will you get out that far, unless you're shooting to a building way down or something like that, unless you're shooting big construction. The biggest difference between the D5 and D8, other than price, is the D5 can take measurements plus or minus 45 degrees, and the D8 can spin around as many measurements, whatever angle you want to go. The other difference is a few more functions.
That's when you're taking it out of
line, yeah.
Right,
So
right. You can measure any.
So if we're measuring from here to that wall and there to that wall, the D5 can go plus or minus 45 degrees. The D8 can go as far as you want. No big deal. One has Bluetooth. You can take your measures and spit it into Excel if you want. So it's just bells and whistles. They're both really good products, and we're obviously really high on them. And like I say, that's the first thing that goes with me, because it's, like I say, it's way more accurate than you're used. The one proviso that was brought up just a few minutes ago is you can take yourself to the nth. In other words, if you use the Bosch angle finder, it goes down to tenths of a degree. And I've seen guys in the shop, when you put that tenth of a degree on your shop drawing, I've seen guys in the shop trying to chase that tenth of a degree and spend a long time doing that. And if you go back and calculate what that tenth of a degree is costing you for that guy to chase it and what it really means to you in accuracy, you'll go back to him and say, stop, move on. You came from a protractor, a rusty protractor with a level, and now you're chasing the same 30 degree. Move on. The other thing, I don't know how Mark feels, the other thing I think is important is if you're using a Bosch digital protractor in the field, give your shop one too. Use the same equipment both places. Because if you say I want 32.2 degrees, let him get 32.2 degrees also. Get another one and put it in your shop. We would typically put the smart level in the shop, so they're not trying to outguess what's going on, because your shop runs will change.
Does this thing work in reverse? Let's say I took all the measurements of Leica and they use the same to actually get lengths quickly on the tables and degrees, so can you punch in data on?
Yep.
So you, okay.
Yep.
So we need to buy 2 Leicas.
Nah, not really. I mean, you're gonna put it, you're gonna put it in your shop drawings with 1/16 of an inch or whatever tolerances you work with, and they'll be okay with that. Because what you're doing is you're coming from the difference of being out in the field and you're trying to butt up against a stair or something like that, and you're trying to get that same 1/16 of an inch, and chances are you weren't getting it. So your error was in the field. It was not as much an error that you got in the shop, the error was in the field to try and get a good accurate measurement initially. Once you got it on your drawing accurate, then your shop people can get you to 16. If you need to go closer, you're in some high-tech stuff, but if you need to go closer, you can use the LT or whatever you want to use, or get a cheaper model for them if that's what you want to do. Like or whatever. Yeah.
We've got the D8, and we haven't learned all the functions yet, but are you able to take that and say, shoot a nose line at the bottom of the stair, and then shoot the top nose line, and then it calculate the hypotenuse for you?
Right. You'll see this when you see that sheet going around. Look real close. JR is describing it as a Pythagorean function. Is if we're standing at the top of the stair, and the way you shoot it, you get more accurate a certain way you shoot it. But if we shoot the bottom nose, the nosing on the bottom stair and the nosing on the top stair, and it'll give you that distance and that angle. If you push down on the same button again, it will go in and calculate your rise, your run, everything you need, every dimension you need off of that. That's shot. It'll do all those dimensions for you. It'll give you extra dimensions beyond what you think you're getting. The other thing, and I've had this happen, especially since I travel a lot, is I don't want to take my smart level with me. You can take this thing and find you a really good straight 2x4 and lay that on the thing and lay your Leica down on top of it. It'll be your smart level. It'll give you the angle of what you're seeing right there. So you don't have to travel with all that stuff.
When you're shooting that hypotenuse, are you standing from another reference point and then shooting to those 2 points, or are you using like the back end of that and then measuring down?
No, what I'm doing is on the tripod, because you need to be stable. On the tripod, sitting back. Now my tripod is not moved. The only thing that's moved is I've changed the angle of my thing. So my pivot point is still setting in the same spot. So I've just changed the angle, and that's all I've done. So what it's done is it took a measurement down on the bottom tread, and it records the angle that measurement is taking from that point. And then it comes up and you take a measurement at this tread and the angle, and it calculates between the 2 lengths and the 2 angles. But your pivot point angle. But you've got to be stable, and you'll see that when you pass that around. The other thing you've got to be is you need to go straight out, straight back. You can't go from one side over to that side and come back. You need to go straight out, straight back. There's some ways you've got to do it to get there. But there again, I still check it with my smart level and my tape measure. Never know.
I guess the one other bullet point about these is just, convenience, and you got not taking another guy to hold the tape measure. But a big one is safety also. We've all been on top of a step ladder trying to take a tape measure to reach the other side of a doorway or something, and then tape things. Now you're just shooting it. You're not having to lean off a ladder. Trying to get a floor to ceiling measurement. You're shooting from the floor to a bar joist. You're not in a lift trying to measure back down. So, it's you don't fall a long way when you don't leave the ground. So it's just a safety thing too.
I don't know if anybody's used this. This is line design deal. If you're doing curves or something like that, this is a handy little thing if you want to do it. You can do it pretty much by yourself and then lay it down and describe a template if you want to. but I don't know about Mark, we hardly ever take templates anymore. You hardly ever pre-fit. I'm trying to talk people out of pre-fitting and taking templates and all that. You don't need it because of technology.
Who makes that?
This is made by a company called Line Design. I think it's line-design, line-design.net. And I've got it somewhere, but I can get it to you. They make them up to 8 feet. And what happens is you unscrew these little pieces and squeeze it together, move it around, and tighten them up. But the only thing I'll caution you is that's a 4-footer, and that's about all one guy can handle because you're handling a snake. And I don't know, the 8-footer, they've got to be sending 2 people. I don't know any other way to do it.
Just about these, I purchased mine off Amazon. I think I probably paid $120 for a 4-foot and the 8-foot one, so I bought both. I mean, it's a great tool for following some curves, but like you said, it just takes one little slip and then your entire curve is completely off. It's really good for measuring maybe small balcony curves where you don't have to be that accurate, but you just need to take a quick template. But if you need to template it, I would say bring a piece of construction board with you to transfer and trace it, and throw that into your truck and try to hold it steady. It's not going to come back with the safe curve.
Yeah, Marco's right.
And it's delicate, so you'll bang it up and it gets bended really easily. So.
It's for smaller stuff. That's the only
Yeah.
time we would ever use it if we didn't have it. Now, the interesting part about these units is if I can get a straight shot at this, like straight on it, the unit, I can hit it here, I can hit it there, and I can put the unit in what's called continuous movement, continuous measurement, and I can sweep it back and forth across here, and it will tell me the furthest point that measurement is right there. So at that point, I've got this mark, and that mark all laid out already, if I can get a straight shot at it. If I've got a curved room, you set it in continuous, and you can just sweep it back and forth across that curved room. It will find the minimum distance it saw and tell you how far it is to the outside of that curved wall, or if it's curving the other way, the other wall. It'll tell you min and max of what you want to do at that point. They've got stakeout functions if you're doing a bunch of fence. You can set it for 5 feet out and then set it to do the next 5 feet. You hit the button, you back up forward 5 feet, it'll start beeping at you. When you get to the mark, it'll tell you you're there. You put something down in the ground to say, here's where I am, and keep going. They're that powerful, and there's that many functions. And if you can figure out all the functions, let me know. I was practicing in my hotel room last night. I've got the most measured hotel room ever.
When I'm going out now, probably, Terry said he's using his range meter the most. I think the tool I'm using the most now in the field is the cross line level. It's giving me a, I don't know, I'm blind anybody here, but a vertical and horizontal line. It's a self-leveling deal. This is also a Leica. This is called a Leica Lino L2, Lino L2. When I bought this, and any salesman can tell you, he says this was the brightest laser on the market at that time. That was probably 4 years ago. That may have changed. I'm relating this. I like relating any tool I'm doing in the field to how I'm doing something in the shop. So, like say if I'm measuring elevations on a stair, I'm going to set this on the back of a landing. I typically don't use the stand. I'm typically just putting the unit on the ground. I know that my line is now 2.5 inches above the surface. So at that point, I'm going to just take a tape measure at the nose of the top step and find out that measurement. That one there happens to be 6. And then you're just working your way down the steps. You're measuring to a key step that you're going to, and then down to the lower landing. And you just got a bunch of lines, and I relate those measurements just like in AutoCAD to the offset. When I go back to lay it out in the shop, I'm going to offset that first line 2.5. I'm going to put a little note or something on that line, or change that to red to know that's my reference line for the laser. And then I've just offset all my other elevations. You're using it to measure off of plumb. You're using these when you're using the when you're using just the plumb line, you know, that becomes a virtual chalk line going across the floor right here. You know, I've got that line going straight across the floor here. Kind of situation where you're going to snap a line, it's just giving you like a virtual reference line to measure off of.
And it's also up there.
And it's also up there, right? Again, it's the pay for what you get deal. I think that what I wanted to point out in this picture, that I was just on a front landing in broad daylight, that I could just barely see the line there. I know it's there because of this. But if you can't see the line with whatever tool you're using, the tool's not, I'm not gonna say it's useless to you, but it is. So the Leica brand, CST Burger brand, I know they come with pickup tools for just, you know, so it's just going to find the light for it, find the line for you in bright light. It's again, pay for what you get. The big box brands will do the same thing as this inside, and probably is just as accurate. But once you're getting outside in daylight, it becomes an issue. I use this a lot. I'm measuring for elevation, and then I would go out and measure, say, at the nose of the bottom step to the wall, get it right in line with that nose, like if I'm putting it right on the table right here. And now I've got someone holding the other end of a 4-foot level that would be to want to get your horizontal measurement nose to nose. To me, when I'm out in the field measuring, it's all about making arcs and triangles, and stuff like that does it for you.
Even if I do E-template, or if I do a straight stair or like that, I always pull out a cross line level or the Leica and get check measures every direction. And I won't walk away from an E-template shoot without a height measurement or something like that to make sure I've got what I really am after. Part of that is you don't want to get back to the shop and realize you got to go back. So I do the same thing Mark does, but I also use it to, even if I take a different type of measure, I use it to check what I've done.
But like another feature, if you're looking to buy one, what I like is you can put this on the tripod as well, lock it, so you can take it out of plumber level. If you want a reference line for a wall mount rail or something like that, you can mount it there. Other brands, I know the CST Burger does not do that. I don't know which ones do or don't, but I know this one does. So.
Some do, some don't.
This is just, basically showing the same thing, how I just did a bunch of drop lines on a staircase, measured the key points. I would measure to, if I'm out there and you're kind of designing the railing in your head as far as which stair tread you might be putting a post on or something like that. So I'm going to get a measurement to that tread. I'm going to get a measurement to the bottom nose, the nosing of the bottom tread. I'm going to get measurements at the landings and just go from there. Here's where I kind of talked about like a virtual chalk line. I put a tape measure along that line, and then you could just go out every foot or so and measure square off of it, and then you get a profile of what that curve was. The other pictures are just showing it, shooting at elevation. Bosch, I use a Bosch digital protractor for exactly what they're showing there. Just was measuring the outside corner of that deck, and we were going to make a railing that followed that course of stone right there, so just to know what the miter was.
This is the tool I would have in the shop for two reasons. Number one, give them what you're using in the field. It's not very expensive, and if you're like me, the older you get, the harder it is to read anything else. And it's got a nice big dial that says here's what to
And a hold button.
Yeah, and a hold button.
You can
So
hold it.
if you take a measurement, you can't see the dial, you hit the hold button, you bring it down, it's still got the same measurement on the hold button, and you release it. So, like I say, age has made me change my equipment sometimes.
Can those things be recalibrated?
They can. I know there is a calibration thing now.
Yeah.
Same as the
I remember getting the manual with it, and there was a recalibration thing.
I've never had to do mine.
I never had.
You close it up and it says 0, you know you're okay. but I've never had to do it, and I've only had to do my smart level once.
Ooh.
Smart level, I know how to recalibrate, but.
I do my-
how to do that.
I do smart level every time I whip it out, because I've been burned.
Yeah.
Because it's banging around your truck and stuff like that, it'll get off. I've had it off as much as 2 degrees.
The thing I'll do on a smart level is if I'm checking a stair, I'll lay the smart level on the stair and get the reading, I'll flip it around, and if I've got the same reading, then I know I'm okay, because that's the way you calibrate it.
I've had to throw one away
Yeah.
too, because it would not do the reset. It would not complete the reset function anymore, so
You get it.
it was gone.
That's, smart level. That was the tube I was talking about earlier and using the spring clamps. It just extends the range. Like I said, the length of that tube was dictated by how wide my toolbox was on the truck. And then these little spacers that clamp on there, and they're designed to clamp on levels. And I know I bought mine at like a contractor supply place, and then it was in the masonry department. I guess masons use them. It just eliminates that if you just put that tube from nose to nose, and if there was one nose slightly higher, you're going to get the teeter-totter effect, and this eliminates that. You're just getting, you're shooting just pretty much the true triangle from here to here to here. So,
I mean, I have a different version of a smart level. I ran into this when I was traveling. This is called an angle cube. It's about a $30 component, and the woodworkers use this to set the angles of their saw blades. It's magnetic. They stick it on the saw blade. They set the saw blade for a miter, then get it accurate. But if I'm traveling, or if I have to keep this in my vehicle all the time, where I may not have my smart level, something may come up. I can grab something that's straight and long, set this on it, and it'll give me the angle of what I want for about 30 bucks.
What's it called?
It's an angle cube. It's called an angle cube, and there's a bunch of companies that sell it. And like I say, if you go to Rockler or some of the woodworking sites, they'll have it. So it's very handy, and especially if you're traveling. The only thing I would tell you is it's not robust. Don't be throwing it around, because I'm on my second. I learned that one the hard way. But it's a nice alternative to a smart level if you don't happen to have your lighter, or you don't happen to have your something with you at the time to do that.
smartphones and iPads have an app called Angle Meter that becomes a smart level as well. So this morning in the hotel room, I just kind of put my iPad. I had my smart level was like at 0.4 degrees, and I put this on there, and it was about 0.48. This one carries a decimal point, another point. So which is right, which is wrong, I don't know, but you could use it on your iPhone or iPad. You got a smart level there as well.
Is that angle meter?
Angle Meter is the app, yeah. It's like a 99-cent app.
And while we're at it, I grabbed this out of Gina's booth because this has come up on listserv several times recently. It's a new prototype that they're working on. But this keeps coming up on listserv. Where do you get this thing to set tickets and stuff in the shop? So I grabbed this when I saw it because I know it's come up on listserv almost every year of where to find one of these things.
I take a lot of pictures when I'm measuring. This is that same picture from before without the protractor in there. Just reference 2 tape measure lines on it. I take a lot of pictures. I can always delete a picture, but you can't. You'd have to go back if you skipped one. Between, when I did this class last year, it was all off a digital camera. Now I'm pretty much just using an iPad the whole time, for whatever reason. You take a picture square on. Like here, took that picture square on. I always leave a tape measure in it to try to get a reference line. So if I scale that picture and put it into CAD, I know that I scale to the tape measure, then it scales the rest of it. Just the key thing on this one was taking that picture, doing an overlay in FabCAD. I learned where I wanted to put a mount. I didn't want to put a rail mount in a joint, so I found the big square stone, got one there. I made sure I kept my mounts away from that light, made sure the railing cleared the light, and it was just a way to reference everything, and just a way to double check in the shop. I take pictures at different zooms, I take pictures at different angles, I go back and stare at them. When I go back to the shop, I like to print them right away, write my dimensions on there, and they're there for you. The camera, to me, is as important as a tape measure when you're doing field measuring.
I found an app online called Pen Ultimate, and what it is, it's a program that, or it's an app that you can take a picture, you can take that same picture and open it in the app, and literally with the stylus or your finger, sketch all your...
I have an app called Measures, My Photo Measures or My Measures or something like that, and it's the same thing. We'll get to that too, and I'll show you a difference of my scribbly notes, how I did a measurement to the app counterpart, and it's key, right? And you're keeping it in your...
Pen and paper, it's...
Right, pen and paper with me, you're, a guy comes in the shop and asks you something else, you flipped over that paper on your desk, you wrote that dimension, you just hand off your field measurement,
So
so.
what it enables me to do is, as soon as I sketch it before I leave, I'll email it to myself,
Yep.
just in case
Yep,
I accidentally delete it.
Exactly.
Nice tool.
Yep.
What's that app called?
It's called Pen Ultimate. Well, the one I use is called Pen
Yeah.
Ultimate.
We'll show you some more. We've got some more in here, and we'll bring that one back up at the same time.
Yeah.
Mark mentioned a really good point is, and I think what you did is you write them back, write your measurements on your pictures. That way you're not looking at a picture and then you're going back and trying to find the measurement that goes with it. It's right on the picture, even if you do it by hand. The other thing that we do is we scan that picture into the computer. So if we lose that paper or whatever, it's not a concern, we can pull it right up. Plus we use dual monitors, so if we're working on AutoCAD on one monitor, we can see the picture and see the measurement on the other monitor all the time. Which dual monitors, if there's anything you need to do for your office, that's one of the greatest tools you'll ever do.
Yeah, I scan, if, in the days of before using, and I still, when I'm doing my field measurements, I'm mainly out with just a notepad. It's just how I've done it for 25 years and it works for me. But the keeping it later was the issue. So, I do, every job I do, I'm drawing in FabCAD. I'm going back now and I scan my sketch pad and import that into my FabCAD drawing, and it's stored with the drawing. Then I'm not searching for a piece of paper later that, like I said, I've written on the back and handed them off and stuff like that. So
That's what you can do with a square-on picture, and you missed a measurement.
I was figuring, taking the pictures, there's always going to be something you're not seeing at that time, you're not thinking about until you get back and you start drawing and you go, oh, I got to put a post there, and you can look at the picture and go, wait, oh, there's a drain right there, or
Right.
something like that. You can't, or it also protects you too, because a lot of time, most of the time we get called out, hey, we're ready to field measure, and they're only about 50% ready, and then you go out and field measure, and by the time you come back and install, something else has been installed in the way, and you go, wait a minute, I got to rework this rail. You call me, this lamp wasn't there.
exactly what Will said. I had a situation. I field measured job in the field, didn't pick up that they had stone pillars, and I had talked to the client into going in the center line of the pillars. And when I got back and started doing my shop drawings and looking at the pictures, I picked up that they had a wall outlet there in the middle of their pillar. So now my post would have been up against their wall outlet. So that's going to dictate where and it's just something I picked up on back at the office, not in the field, and taking a picture did it for me.
Yeah, if you go out on an initial sales call where somebody's wanting you to look at something, snap some digital pictures right then while you're standing there. When you go back and it's time, they say, okay, you got the job, come out and measure. You can print your digital pictures out on a printer, take them with you, write them right straight on your picture. You've already got them. Instead of trying to sketch when you get to the job, you've already got the set of pictures in front of you. Just write them right on the picture. And if you've ever seen my sketching and my handwriting, pictures are great. Before we get into anything on the tools we've shown you so far, any questions?
If by chance your duffel bag fell out of the back of your truck,
Where do you find it?
what would... That's part B of the question. Part A, how much would it cost you to replace that? And part B, where can I find that duffel bag?
Stuff I carry in my truck. $1,500.
For everything you've demonstrated here.
Your most
Yeah.
expensive part is the laser.
This is the most expensive one at about $500.
Terry, I just looked up the Vista V8. Right now, Amazon's the cheapest with V8. That's running $6.99. For your laser level, self-leveling, that's like $180.
Yeah.
The cross line?
Yeah, it's going to be 180 on
The-
engineer supplies.
The,
For Leica? Wow.
yeah, the funny thing about it, when I started looking for the Leica, the D8 would run $7.99, and there's a company in Florida that sells it at under list price. So if you're interested, I don't know, Mark, where did you get yours?
I got it from where you.
Okay,
So that was.
if you're interested, let me know. I'll give you the name, their contact information, because they're much cheaper than anything you can find online. For some reason, I don't know why they're doing it. They do it that way, but it'll knock $100 or $150 off the online price.
Do you use a laser plumb bob? Do you have a laser plumb bob?
Yeah, PLS fine. And I got this old one that it was like an off-brand thing. It looks like a brass plumb bob, and it stands on its own little tripod and self-leveling. So the point goes to where you're on the floor, and it's up.
PL5, but you gotta be careful, they got that automatic pivoting system in there. And they have the green light, red light on top.
Yep.
My guys have dropped those things so many times, and what happens is, and it'll stay in the green zone, and when it won't self-level, and you don't even know that. And I screwed up a pretty big job because I didn't know that. So what I do every time on the PL5 now, when I set it, I pivot a little bit, make sure the dot doesn't move.
Right.
That's my double check, but those things will be off and you don't even know it.
The other thing you gotta watch on them is that 1-inch offset for when you're doing your square lines.
Right.
I always thought that, and there's got a sticker right there that tells you to offset at 1 inch,
Right.
and I just didn't read it. So you had a dot from where it was plumb, floor to ceiling, and then it shoots the other two lines out for making square, but you're not going off that one line for square. And then that was another Mark's tuition lesson there, because I was in shot square. Another Mark's tuition lesson is always remember to unlock these. Set it up. It was on a little bit of a pitch of a landing, and I had it locked so it didn't self-level. And so that now as it progresses out, it keeps getting worse and worse.
The only other thing we didn't mention in the laser range finder that we need to mention is it needs to hit something. So let's just say you're out on an open balcony. There's no end to the balcony. There's targets that they can give you. One of them comes with the units where you can just lay it there and it gives you a target up. I've used cinder blocks stood up before.
Notepad.
I carry a quick clamp in one of my bags, and I just take something and quick clamp it to what I need. I tape stuff to the side of a balcony, so you've got to have something to hit off of. So you need to be a little bit creative. On a stair job, if I see bullnose, I've got some angle that's already cut up in 4-inch spaces, so I can just sit on the edge of the stair and shoot the angle, the top of the angle, and I ignore the bullnose sometimes. So you've got to be a little creative because it's got to hit something to reflect back.
So I was going to ask how much that digital protractor was.
I think those are
180 bucks.
160, 180 or something.
I was gonna say the $100 range. I don't know.
I thought the 180 was the land level?
He said no. 180.
They're 160, 180 somewhere.
Oh, okay.
They're less than 200.
So both of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I say. Put it in your shop.
A little question on, deal on the Bosch protractor. You're talking about the hold button. Well, we went out on a job, or I went out on a job, and did my decks just like you had there, and I'm just amazed on how good they did every corner. Really good. Came back and I belted it off. It was real close, but careful on that hold button.
When you start measuring them, they all measured exactly.
Yeah, I was amazed how good these guys were.
The other thing about the Bosch is you got to be careful, especially if you're doing something that's close to a 45-degree angle, that you don't get it flipped around and you're measuring the complement of the angle.
Right.
That can mess you up really bad. Visually, it looks like it's about a 45-degree angle, and you might measuring the complement at 44, as opposed to what it really is at 46. And so you got to be careful of that.
Sure. Yeah, and you really got to keep your perspective, remember what you were measuring angle with, where you were doing that. I mean, first time I saw a guy measure an angle with a rusty protractor with his torpedo level sticking up, and he's squinting because he can't quite see the line. That's what you were measuring with. Now you've got something much more accurate. You got to take confidence in that, but don't get over it.
I wonder if the folks had had some really good apps for iPads and things to write it up here, that way we can get it on the video.
We have a whole
We'll
page
get you
of
some
it.
up there.
Yep. Anything else? This is a template that I came up with, and it just kind of helps you remember to measure everything when you're there. I get out there, I'm going to count the number of treads, the number of risers, document that. I'm going to physically measure A is the length of the landing. On mine, B to B is just the horizontal measurement from nose to bottom nose. Nose to nose vertical is C. Nose to nose D. What's D? Just the landing to the lower landing. Nose to nose on a diagonal. Nose to the landing on a diagonal. The pitch angle with your smart level. Top of nose to the wall would be just shooting over, say that was just kind of account for how long the lower landing was. Something you want to consider, like if you're going down with to run past the length of the tread and then 12 inches, you want to make sure you have enough wall there to do that, something to think about when you're measuring. The riser height, just a couple individual risers to tread width. The amount of pitch on the landing, the rise on the landing. And then, like say if you're doing this for a wall mount rail, I just check off that it's this or opposite hand, just as a way to measure it. If I'm coring holes, I want to just maybe make note that they have water there and what kind of electric they have there, just to kind of remind you of what equipment you're going to bring back to the job site when you're installing. You don't need to fill out every one of these, but every one that you do fill makes it that much more accurate and a way to just double check a measurement. This goes back later, you can just double check a lot of things with that. So it's just something I kind of came up with.
Use your device to measure B, H, C, and D.
I use a tape measure with the device. So in other words, for B, I'm shooting the plumb line at the bottom nose. So effectively that would be a line from the laser. Then I measure with a tape measure over and just finding where that line is.
What, 10-foot ladder?
You could be doing it, if it gets too far, you're doing a couple steps. You know, it's just what you could get to. But again, I wouldn't feel it'd be accurate enough to try to get up there and hold the range meter to a line. You're just going back to that accuracy thing. You may have to do it in some steps. You know.
Good.
Could you just set a tripod up down there, shoot the first nose at the base, top?
Well, I have shot from, you could shoot from the laser,
right,
from the landing here to here,
right.
I know that measurement, and then take it out of plumb and shoot that measurement, and you've done the same thing.
The other thing
But we're trying to go back with who has what tools, you know, so.
I'm saying with that, and then with the Pythagorean theory,
Yeah, then you have it.
It would have C and D.
Right. Again, this is guys going with tape measures. I did this before I had those tools. This is what I came out with tape measure, and you know, this might have been a plumb bob or a mark on the wall or something there.
The other thing you can do is if there's a wall on the other side, shoot the wall at the bottom,
Right.
subtract it. The units have the ability, if you shoot up there and you hit the minus sign, you come down and shoot below, it'll calculate.
Calculate it for you.
You don't have to do the math, so. Like I say, Mark, I stole this from Mark too.
I probably did this 12
This
years
is the
ago.
basic way to do it. We don't necessarily always do it basic anymore because we've added the technology. We're just trying to get the group to move over there.
And even with the technology, you're just reminding you what to measure.
Yeah.
Just a way to document that you have that one.
It's a sickening feeling to go 50 miles and then come back and realize you forgot something. Or like 1,500 miles. That next airplane bill's coming out of your pocket. This is just another example of documented photos. If you're doing it manually, you write it on the photo, you document it. Also, you can give this to the shop guy and the installation guy that before they go to the installation, they see the photos and see what they're up against before they go. The handy tool. You're giving them drawings, but they can see physically what they're looking for, and they can also, if they see something's changed. The deal on the right is a deal that we put together. I detest pedestrian gates. I absolutely detest pedestrian gates for two reasons. One, it takes you just as long to measure a pedestrian gate as it does a driveway gate. And two, you make a lot less money in it. And there's too many bells and whistles. So we finally made a checklist, about a 3-page checklist for the salesman to give to the CAD guy. It has everything checked off of it of what he wants on that gate. Here's the lock set, here's the hinge, here's where I want it, it's a sketch of what I want. So we didn't have to communicate. We were always losing time on pedestrian gates. And every time I would cringe when they would come in. Until we started doing this and we started documenting our standard stuff. And they would go out and say, okay, here's what's standard. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not a thing, but we can put this on for you. And there's a place for them to write on what a Baldwin lock set instead of the standard. So that's just another way to document inside your office area. There again, writing back on a picture works even better. You're not looking at a sketch or something you've done and looking back at the picture. You're going to hear us talk about blue beam in a few minutes, but this is just a way we documented. This is a stair that we did in Bahamas where for a wood guy, he wanted to put treads on, so we went over and measured it for him. And we went into Bluebeam. You can do this with Adobe or you can do this with AutoCAD. We went in there and just put all the measurements on it that we needed. And this went to North Carolina, I think is where it ended up. But it had everything documented he needed, numbered all the stairs, got the pitch. When we're out in the field, when I say we do check measures, and we'll show you this app in a few minutes, we actually do a height measurement and a length measurement, and then we calculate right in the field what the rise and run in the degrees is in the field and make sure that we're not off somewhere. This calculation you see up here that we put in here, we've got an app that does that off our iPhones, and we'll calculate that, and if I see that the rise that I took on a manual, maybe with a cross line, is different than what I calculate, then I know I've got a problem with my measurement. Now, I don't get it back to 1/8 of an inch sometimes unless I'm real picky, but if you see you're an inch off or you're a degree off or something like that, you better go look and see what you got. So I never walk away without doing that check. Same way you can put, look out for this, problem areas, something they haven't finished yet, that you know you've got to be finished. Something they haven't finished that you know you've got to go back and take more measures for. You can document on your picture.
This is Bluebeam. Is this program allowing you to put these numbers in the red on the picture?
Yeah, we'll show you that in just a few minutes.
These were the apps that we talked about. Measures is this one. You're just basically taking a picture. You're still physically measuring everything, but you're documenting onto that picture. What I did is these dotted red lines were my reference lines for my lasers. Took my measurements, just all the measurements I could, and then we already talked about angle meter. That was like the smart level. Right angle is the app I use. All this little app Terry was just talking about. It has a couple different functions, both with right triangles and acute triangles. And it also has a chord function, which is, to me, is just great here. I was thinking about that kind of when Terry was showing with the, whatever that template thing was. But if you shot across that curved wall at a known point, you know what that chord is, and you measure from the center what the height is. You type in the chord and the height, it'll tell you the radius and the degrees of rotation that it has in there.
And we have all this here if you want to try it.
Right.
And at right angle, the $5 app.
Right, that's the angle meter, like the smart level one. Steel beam is kind of a neat one. You type it. Say you're on a job site and you want to lift something off of an existing beam. You type in what size that beam is, what the span is, if you're lifting a concentrated load or a point load, and hit enter, and it tells you, it gives you a thumbs up or thumbs down whether that beam will carry the load. I don't know, it's not an engineer stamp, but it gives you a little degree of help on it.
There'll be an app for that someday too.
Steel shape just replaces a steel book, all the sizes of beams, angles, weights per foot of angles, stuff like that. Turbo scan, it's kind of just you're using your camera or your iPhone as a camera. You're taking pictures of a blueprint, say like in a general's job trailer. It's scanning it. When you go back, you can print it, and then you've redone that drawing. Red laser is just a kind of a neat one. It scans barcodes, and it'll tell you how much the same tool is at Lowe's compared to Home Depot or something like that, and who has it or online. FabCAD's Job Viewer app for laying out for selling a gate, and then AutoCAD WS. You can from your AutoCAD drawings, I just send them to my email them myself, download them on my iPad, and now I got an AutoCAD drawing saved on my iPad.
Yeah. Marco Vasquez showed us a deal he did yesterday, that he was showing me yesterday, a spiral stair that he had on AutoCAD WS. That he probably, you can send it into AutoCAD's cloud and bring it down into your iPad right then. And if, I don't know whether they'll show it to you guys or not.
Well, you can actually, when you upload it to the iCloud, you can share it with certain contractors, and you can set a password, because I don't know about you guys, I'm fearful of sending somebody a drawing, and they take my drawing and they shop around with it, and then they give somebody else my design.
Right.
So you can limit your contractor to see this, so they can go onto the website, they can download it, see it, you can see it in a vertical space, 3D image or 2D. They can make notes, communicate back and forth with it, and when you don't want them to see it anymore, then you delete your password and you limit their access. So that's nice.
The nice part about it is you showed it to me, you take it out, show it to the customer, and give them the flavor of what they're buying, and they didn't walk away with the drawing.
Right.
And you can do almost photorealistic things just on your phone or iPad. So there's a lot of clients out there, a lot of interior decorators I run into who can't visualize. That gets me, but you show them a picture of something that you haven't built yet, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't know whether you guys, I've had competitors send a fax over to me saying they just received this fax and it's on our title block and they want a quote. And they alerted me that the guy's shopping around, but they don't even have the decency to take your title block off of it. Right there in front of them.
On that turbo scan, what format do you get then? Is it PDF?
What is Job Viewer? Did you go there?
Dave, got a minute?
Yeah, it's a selling tool. You take a picture of the job site and then you superimpose the drawing over top of it, show the customer what it's going to look like on the site.
You show
Use it for marketing.
Let you know what's
I'm doing a demo at the trade show later.
This picture here is combining the measures one and the right angle one, just a little bit of information on it. Like I told you before, that when I put my cross line level on, it's 2.5 inches up. That's a known number for me. That's where that red dotted line is. From the bottom tread, I measured up to 48. So that's where I came up with the 45.5 here for what I truly want is that triangle. I measured nose to nose measurement at the 82, measured the pitch, and did that. I think on the next thing, there's a close-up of that. So basically, this is my sketch drawing on the job site as compared to if I wanted to email this from my phone or iPad right back to the shop. I think it's a little bit clearer for them to want to start building something off that if they wanted to. Reference number. These are kind of hard to read, but I think my smart level said 29 degrees and the right triangle came in at 29.06 or something like that, and I must have inputted the run and the rise, and it came up like where I was at 82 inches, it was at 81 and 15/16 or something to make it into a true triangle. I did that, when I measured this job, it was about 10 degrees out. I quick measured, I sat in my truck, did it, checked my math before I left, and that was there.
That's just a screenshot of the right angle on a iPhone 3 that Kathy won't may have. Mark's at the higher level, and his has the chord measurements on it, but it's basically the same thing. All you do is put in 2 components, and it'll tell you the rest.
It tells you the rest, right?
Mark and I think use different ones of these. This one is one that, and we've got on the iPad if you want to play with it after a while. You'll notice our iPad, I've got it hardened to somewhat because, like I said, I'm a little bit of a klutz. That's an OtterBox handheld piece that goes on the iPad. It's got a container hardened around the outside, and then it's got a deal you slide your hand in so you can't throw it when you're trying to talk to somebody. It also has a loop that you put over a neck strap you put over. Like I say, I am a klutz. But that's the Measure Pro. The difference between, I think the one you use 2 fingers?
No,
You're back to the
I went, when you said that, I went to yours.
Mark started me on the one that you use 2 fingers and you spread it out. And I'm looking at Mark's finger and I'm like, and he was doing it on an iPhone. I'm like, how the hell could a finger 3 times bigger than mine do that? So I went back and found one that only uses 1 finger, or I use a stylus with it. And it's pretty handy. And I use this, if I don't have a set of drawings, this is what I typically use. If I've got a set of drawings, lots of times I won't use it. It does take a little bit longer to do it in the field like this, but if you think about it, if you took a picture, you sketched something, you brought it back to the office, you wrote it on your pictures, you've actually taken a lot longer. But if I've got a full set of drawings, I typically don't use this, and I'll use the drawing to write in my pictures. It's quicker for me to do it, but just takes a little bit more time, but in reality, it's really fun if you do the whole process. Details, this is really where it's good. If you see something that looks concerning, or is tight, or you're not sure how you're going to handle it, you can take pictures right off the iPad, or you can take pictures on your digital camera and import it into your iPad. There's an app or a socket that they can bring it right in, and you can mark it up and do whatever you want, put notes or whatever right there. And this is where it's most valuable. Is you see something that doesn't look right, or it's going to be a difficult connection or something like that, you can zoom in and get it.
Is your digital camera something special other than a point and shoot, or why don't you just use iPad for all photos?
You'll notice this was an iPad photo. Kat, can you go back one? That was an iPad. I'm sorry, that was a digital camera photo, and we have an iPad 2. She wants the new iPad 3 and won't give me a phone. I don't know whether I mentioned that or not. But the iPad 2 is a much grainier shot. The digital camera gives me a much better picture. Yeah, if I had a 3, it's probably different. The other thing I can do is I can stick it on macro and I get up real close if I need to. So typically, and here again, if you've been out doing a sales call and you've already taken pictures, import them into your iPad before you go out and take field pictures, because your pictures are right there. You're going to see pictures on our iPad that are already set there, ready to mark up. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. This is another thing I've done for years. If I see a weird transition or something like that, I'll put blue tape. I'll put a piece of blue tape down. I'll mark some measurements right there on the blue tape to tell me where it's going and what's happening. This does 2 things. It really documents something really strange. This one right here is they put a cutout up and around, which we still can't figure out why they did that. But we needed to turn and get around that cutout. So all we did was throw the blue tape down, mark the measurements and which direction they're going, and document it right there. So when we're ready for that to work on that cutout area, we just pull the picture. But that's really, really cheap and really easy to document. And in most cases, I hate sketching, otherwise I'd have to sketch that. I don't even put any measurements on the drawing, I just take that. Same thing there. I know I've got to offset it out from 1/4 by 6 trim just to get around it, so it just documents what I've got. You'll notice in some of the pictures that you're going to see that we've taken is we've got a scale in there, and I'll show you why that's important later to do that.
This was just another little simple ramp that we did. Just laid out in my sketch, and when I use my cross-line laser, I just always circle the drops, and it's kind of straightforward as what I was measuring there and just the dimensions on it. So it's the way I documented. Terry and I both feel, you've got the best measuring in the world, but you need kind of a system to make it all work together. So the next part would be like what you're doing now to bring it back to the office. We've kind of talked about most of these already. You print your pictures right away. I scan my field notes. I put them in with my photo album. Write dimensions on the pictures. I lay out a lot with triangles and arcs. That's just the math is going to tell you right there if you're going to document something. I draw them both in plan and elevation views just to help pick up on different points. We already talked about the My Measure Pro app there. I kind of touched on earlier, you relate how you're measuring in the field or how you're laying out. Like I said, I use FabCAD for everything. These lines, your elevations, they just become offset lines. I go in there, I click the first one, offset, offset, offset. I've got a whole bunch of lines. Well, I just put all my elevations on the drawing. Taking a screen picture with the iPad, like we would have done with the My Measure Pro. If someone wanted to start working on that railing, or if I send someone out in the field to document something while we were working on a railing, they take a picture, email it right away. We're not waiting for them to come back to the shop. So it's right there. Once I get back to shop, stuff I use in the shop, software and stuff, obviously the computer. We print all our jobs full scale. My mindset there is when you consider your shop, if you're doing a shop drawing, in my mind I'm doing my layout at the same time. I see no reason to pay someone in the shop to relay something out in chalk lines if I've already laid it out. The layout's been done. CAD software I use is FabCAD.
We use all the ones on the
Yeah.
side of 2D, 3D, and SolidWorks.
I don't use Bluebeam, Terry does. The Construction Master Calculator is just an old standby, I've had it forever. They have apps now. I keep that both on my desktop, on my iPad. You buy the Construction Master Calculator for $50, you buy the app for I think $15. So. Itemizer 8 is now it's called Itemizer 9. It's just a software. Just you type in lengths of beams, sizes of plate as your stock list and how many there are, and then you itemize what you need from it. It determines, it optimizes your sheets and plates and beams and stuff like that. I think that's a $150 software or something like that. Bentech is what we use for bending all of our railings. You're basically going back to all the math. You're just inputting lengths of what your runs are. That calculates where you start and stop your bend on a pipe. Cone layout is just another one for length. It just gives you the layout of a cone. Rail calculator. It's a ride along on Dave's software. Just a spreadsheet that tells you the center of your pickets. You input what your maximum spacing is going to be and what your inside of your posts, and it's going to tell you the center line of everyone as you go. The internet, enough said about that. It's just an endless supply of information. Capture Express, I don't use it much anymore. It just takes a picture of the screen, and you can save it like that. Back in FabCAD 5 versions ago, it didn't take in all the resolution or memory of a good picture. It took a picture of the screen, so when it came into FabCAD, it was a lot easier to draw on. It wasn't confusing to AutoCAD, but the newer FabCAD takes in, or AutoCAD takes in any drawing, so I don't use that much anymore. Print-to-CAD is?
Print-to-CAD is a CAD, or is a PDF to DWG conversion program. There's a number of them on the market. This just happens to be one we use. We use it a lot if we're doing a drawing, for example, and the client wants to see the house behind the thing. So if we know there's already a drawing, even if it's PDF, we'll convert it. We'll grab the house out of it. We'll throw it in behind the rail, and they're not paying us to redraw the little house for them. It's already there and all that. But we also use it for geometry. If somebody wants, one of the things I hate is especially in the commercial part, is we want preliminary drawings before we do field measures. Well, the preliminary drawings are okay, but they're worthless until we get to field measures. Now in some cases we're double dipping it, but you still have to do it in a lot of cases. So in a lot of cases you can bring in print-to-CAD, convert it, reuse their geometry, and that becomes a lot of your initial drawing. And we can show you that later. I don't have print-to-CAD on, but I've got some output from it if you want to see.
We've had drawings, you know, not getting away from railings and stuff like that, where we've made equipment for manufacturers. They send me their drawing. I print it full scale. Now their designer or their draftsman just did my shop layout for me, because you're taking it right off the drawing. It's just key. It's just a time saver. I already kind of talked about this picture. To me, going back with CAD just kind of separates yourself. A lot more professionalism. Quick drawings, much more accurate. Your communication improves so much. I've talked about this before, relating how you do something on the floor. When I first started with AutoCAD, I had this mental block of trying to get it to work, and then sitting in one of Dave's seminars, like what he had a couple days ago, it just, the light bulb went on. It was, you relate your function to how you do it. I snap a line on a floor, there's a line. I need to copy that line or offset that line over 36 inches. That's the offset function. And once I started relating names of commands to guide how I would lay out the floor, it really started clicking with me. Terry just kind of touched on with CAD. I had a guy that was building the biggest house on a golf course overlooking the signature hole. His main concern with me is what his house was going to look like, what my railings and staircase were going to look like from the 17th green. And to overlay my drawings and my concepts onto his house, he saw it before he got it. And that's what sold the job. It sold the job with, this was getting built in 2008 when guys like him that still had money were spending it, but he knew guys like me were getting pinched, and and every sub on that job was pinched, and I had my mindset that I wasn't going to move on my price. And when he could visualize that railing on his house, our conversation, it was a kind of a funny story. I was going to take a presentation to give to him, and then right before I left, I thought, man, if I give this to him and he don't like my price, I just did someone else's layout. So I had it on my laptop, I put it on a slideshow, and so I was sitting there, and he says, I'll tell you right now, we're not going to dime over this much. I said, well, we got a problem because I'm twice as much as you, so what do you want to eliminate? And his wife was there, and I said, you know, we can eliminate your arched railings. And she says, well, you're the one that said it would go with the arched stone. I said, doesn't it? Yeah. And then we can eliminate this. No, we're going to keep that. We can eliminate that. No, we're going to keep that. And the guy says, what do I got to do to give you the deposit? These other subs were in the house working, and they just stood there, they couldn't believe it. And then he went to the carpenter who was putting metal pickets in. He goes, why couldn't you have done that for me? So it just set me apart. I closed my laptop and left smiling with a deposit. So that's when they could see it, that's when you sell it. So we've had other, well, just had other ones. Another quick story. I was doing a job for a warehouse, and they put warehouse addition upon addition upon addition. Got to be the last addition. The fire marshal said you're supposed to have a staircase on the back of every one of the additions. I was going to Canada fishing. The contractor was from Oklahoma and he was getting ready to head back. We had a meeting with the fire inspector. I overlaid a picture of what I would do for them. They signed off on it knowing that they knew what they were getting before we left. So it just gives you a little bit more credibility with inspectors and contractors.
Catch any fish?
Catch a lot of fish. This particular one, I was going to meet with the city, and again, just showing up, bringing CAD into play. They wanted a gate for the city at the Salt Dome. I was out in my truck making deliveries. I met with the city official. They didn't know what they wanted. I said, how about kind of the logo that's on your door? I took a picture of the guy's car door. By chance, I took a picture of just where him and I parked. When I built the gate in CAD and transposed it, it gave a reference to scale for my truck parked there in the car. And that was purely by accident there, but it kind of picked up on that later. So. This goes back to just saying I draw everything with arcs and triangles, and that's how you make stuff square later. I can show this better later in AutoCAD. I just kind of simulated an odd-shaped deck. You get two known points, each side of a door frame or something, and you shoot those points. You shoot all your measurements, and then you draw arcs from those points. And where those arcs intersect will be when you brought your drawing back to your shop, and you lay it on the floor. Where those arcs intersect will simulate the same angle and everything in the field. So you're on this particular one, it would have been a staircase here, a slight radius here, straight, and a couple angles. And by doing it with the math and doing arcs and triangles, no templates were made. Really, you didn't need a protractor or anything. I would measure it with a protractor, but the math does the layouts right.
This works real good on serpentine curves or something like that too. You use the same process.
I think these are just clear pictures of that same thing. But I referenced, there was a stoop there, and those were my two reference points. You have to know the distance those two are apart, that's key. And from there you just start making all these other dimensions, and then draw arcs to where they meet, and that's how you relay it out. I talked about the large format. We print everything full size because I've already done the layout. This is a commercial staircase we were doing. One guy had the stair stringers on sawhorses, laying out where we're going to pop the holes in for the hard rate stair treads, and over on our benches we printed out the railing, and so getting laid out in two separate areas, not together, two separate guys working on it, but come together for the same thing.
Yeah, the large-scale plotters are not as expensive as you think. Our last one we got off eBay was refurbished for $1,800, and it's been chugging away for 4 years. It's well worth the money, especially if you have the free guy, the guy that kind of floats around on you every once in a while and kind of mentally takes off. You've got a large-scale plot and says, okay, make that. We don't need you to do anything beyond that. Because he'll come to you later and say, you know, I laid this railing out, and right when I got to the end, I'm about 4 3/4 inches over. You think they'll notice that? The last time you want to hear that. So large scale plot just takes it out. Also, you'll find sometimes in your company you'll find a guy that really likes drawing on his table because he really likes doing that, and he really wasted your money. Since you've already really drawn it on CAD, you've checked the 4-inch code, you've got it all laid out, but you really like to do that, and you really wasted your money.
You guys
You've
have
already done it.
How large on scale?
We're in Florida, so you print in air conditioning, it goes out in humidity. I've had, you want to calibrate your plotter, and you want to have a decent plotter. I use an HP, I don't know what you use. HP. You want to calibrate every once in a while. The other thing you want to do is you always want to put a dimension, reference dimension on your plot. So every morning when they go to use that plot, they'll check that reference dimension and say, okay, the paper grew on me 1/8 of an inch. I need to offset. I've not seen more than 1/8 of an inch in about 15, 20 feet so far.
Because we've had, we don't have a plotter. I send everything to a blueprint company. You know, they've got everything, but the problem is they can't they don't have CAD programs, they're print directives from CAD.
PDF.
And for some reason, well, see PDF, if you do a DWG to PDF, sometimes it loses scale, sometimes it doesn't, and I don't understand why. And they can only read a DXF file, but if you notice in your CAD plotting options, you have several different DFX. You got your DFX6, your DFS, DXF X, and sometimes she can open those files and sometimes she doesn't. And there's been times where it's been dead on and other times where it's all 5/3 of an inch or something ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why we took back control. That's why we went and got, we're on our second plotter. The first one I had, but we had trouble getting calibrated when we did AP. We took control back. We don't send it to somebody else to do anymore on something this important. If I was sending it to get drawings, that's fine, but if I'm doing a 15-foot plot, I need it to be right. We take control. We buy an $1,800 plotter and pay for it quickly. And we took control of it ourselves because the plotter wasn't as expensive as what it was costing. The other thing is, just like you said, you've got to get to their interface. You don't know whether they're calibrating their equipment. Most times they're not, because they're printing just blueprints. So you got to be real careful with that. But the best thing you do is make sure you put a reference dimension on it. But like I said, take control of it. It's not as expensive as you think. And if you get the guy that really likes to draw on table and all that, get him to quit doing that, you pay for your plotter. Right there.
How big is your plotter? Is it a 36-inch wide or?
We're a 42, because when we found on the 42, if you've got a rail drawing going up a thing, what you do is you rotate your drawing where it's straight out so you can get it all, but a 42 gives us most of all of the 36-inch high rail on a stair, gets us most of that. If we can't get it all, what we do is we put targets on it, we'll print it twice, and we'll make the targets up and get them laid back. We found that 36 was a little limiting on trying to get as much as we could. 42 was pretty good, 48's the better. Mine's an HP 800, yours?
Mine's an HP 500.
500.
I don't know if they make it anymore, but you know,
Yeah.
it's color. I mean, we print poster quality pictures on it if we want, and so typically I'm drawing all my railings in black and white. Maybe I'll have a dimension on it in different color just to offset that or something.
Yeah, a good place to look for it is opposite plotters or stores, and that's where I got mine off eBay. I got it from a company that takes them back for me, and they're fine for. You don't use it a lot, so they're fine for what you're doing. We normally, if we're sending a big set of prints to a contractor or something like that, we send them to the local printer. We don't print them off our plotters. They're faster at that.
Who works on it if something goes awry?
That's right.
Who works on it if it needs some?
Yeah. The nice part about it is sticking with a name brand. There are local service people that will come out.
I had a local guy come out and,
Yeah.
and it was painless.
I changed the belt on mine. It took about 2 hours. I probably should have had somebody come out and do it.
That's the only thing I've changed on mine in, I don't know, 6-7 years probably.
HP has a buyback program where if you have an older HP printer, you can sell it back to them for, we sold ours back to them for $1,500 on a $3,000 new printer, and it just offset the cost of half.
Cash for clunkers for printers.
Yeah, HP does it to get them out of the market. Your refurbisher is doing it to get it in, keep it in the market.
So, I'm understanding you're, like, you got a 15-foot rail, you have 15 foot of paper on the floor that that's your layout. You guys have trouble with fire? I mean, how do you tack this thing together?
I tack it off and then it might just put it out. I mean,
The other thing you can do.
I've never had a roaring paper.
No, but it's paper. Come on.
Right, it's paper. It'll burn around there.
Yeah. The other thing you can do that's real handy is we have a product in Florida. I don't know if we have it up here called Thermoply. It's 8-inch thick. It's very, very bendable, but it stays solid. It's got a foil backing on one side. You can take a sheet of Thermoply. You can spray glue it. Put spray glue on it. You can lay your railing down on it. And then you can take that Thermoply and curve it around the spring you've got in your shop And you can stand there and tell the guy, okay, I want you to infill this just like this, because there's your rail. You've already unfolded it, now you've curved it back. You've attached it to his railing, and all he's got to do is follow the picture in a lot of cases. You don't do it every time. You don't want to give your super #1 guy something that's really simple and say you follow the picture. But you don't want to give the guy that can't do math just a drawing and tell him to go do it and lay it. You got to be a little subjective. You don't print them all off, but like Mark said, paper's fairly cheap. Cheaper than the mistake.
Like the stair up there, you know, you have where you're grading, you know, your treads bolt in and such. I mean, our CAD drawings, it has that all laid out. I mean, it's not full size by no means, but I guess I don't see the difference so much. I mean, yeah,
Because you're paying a guy now to lay that out.
well, but it's laid out by the detailer already. I mean,
Right.
every dimension's on those figures.
Right, but this way you're not using any dimensions. You're going, you've got a hole there where that went with a center march on it, and you mark it with your center punch. You're not,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, the difference is now you've got another chance of error when the guy relays it out in the shop. Now, like I say, I wouldn't do it on everything, but if it's important, you think there's a chance of error, you took the error completely out. And typically, you don't find out where the error is until you get to the installation, and that's where it gets expensive.
I had a guy, you know, what Terry said earlier, a guy, we had a dimension of 1'2". He read it as 12 inches.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know, so now you're 2 inches off, but he did it in his mind right. And when you're doing it off that, you see where it goes. You know, every picket would be laid out, every
I
hole.
think like a 4-story building stairway, I mean, you're rolling through a lot of paper.
Yeah, and
Well, yeah, I know.
you wouldn't necessarily do that on that. I mean, you do it along and get that total drop. And we don't necessarily want it, we want it to where your stair is going to stop. If you're stopping on the first tread, we want the first tread. If you're stopping on the first floor or the bottom floor, we want the floor. If there's a mid-landing, we want tread to tread at the mid-landing, 2 dimensions. The chances are there may be a radius change. If you can, and when you're doing this, the thing you've got to be concerned with is a radius change in here. In other words, maybe this is a little tighter radius and it flattens out a little bit. You can kind of tell that. If you count up and I've got, this is my middle number of treads and count, and I don't find that is my furthest distance, then you've probably got 2 radiuses. And if that's true, play around a little bit, try to find the 2 places that radius, put a piece of tape on, and then do 2 radiuses. At that point. Very, very basic. Very, very basic. Until you get to the formula. And this is the formula to figure out what that radius is. I've got some questions. Yeah,
All right, your mid-orient dimension there that you're taking from your figure your curve, with that, if you projected that to the floor, is that not the same in 2D as it is in the at the bottom of the cylinder, it's going to be the same mid-orient.
No. You've got to develop a cylinder.
You have a developed radius on the helix versus a 2-plane radius at the bottom. So it's going to be different.
I think the mid-orient, I know the,
Just the mid-orient would be the same level.
I think it is. I think the radius would be the same. Going up the column.
No, the radius is not the same.
But the chord would be different. The chord height.
if you project it from here, straight down from here, to the line there, that mid-orient, would that not be the same as the
Yes. I think the chord height would be the same.
The chord height.
That's what I've always.
The height would be the same, but the chord would be different.
Yeah, the radius is not the same because your length of arc is not the same.
Right, okay.
This is the most accurate way to graph. And like I say, if you want more accurate, you need to go to one of the other systems. There are other ways to do it. Even what Mark was talking about a little bit about striking radius in different steps. You can even do that. You know, where you come in and say, okay, put a piece of blue tape on every fourth step, and you check from there to there, to there, to there, to there, to there, and back and forth, and you can get the same thing. That's even a more accurate way to get it. What you're after in this case, what you're really after here is to get your shop going right, and more importantly, to get the pre-roll for your shop. If you go out and frame in the field, send a pre-roll. It's already pre-rolled, they're not doing it. What you're after here is to get that first pre-roll and get your CAD guide flat in there. That's the key thing. So you need to get the pre-roll and get going. That's really what gains your shop. Yeah, I've got a Excel spreadsheet if you want. You key in 2 numbers in green and it calculates.
Just a better app. I mean, it's only 99 cents.
Here's the better way to do it. Go to your AutoCAD, lay in a straight line with your measurement from bottom tread to top tread, lay in your chord, strike a 3-point arc between the 3, and you got it. That's the way to do it. You don't have to worry about apps or anything else. You're already got it. Because from that point now, what you've got is you've got the radius around the stair tread. If you know you're going to go 4 inches out with the stair, all you have to do is offset out. Now I've got the radius of this, but I've also got my arc length. So I can tell my shop, I want you to curve the radius of this, and it's this long at the same time.
Okay.
All right. So the AutoCAD way is better, and that takes you. This comes up more on balconies or something that. This is kind of a rule of thumb and an old deal of that goes out is the way to tell if you've got a true arc is if you're doing a balcony, just pick a dimension, some phantom dimension, and strike a line across here. Put a piece of blue tape. Do that same exact dimension across here. Then come back and check and see if your C and D dimensions are the same. If they're the same, you've got a true arc. You're good to go. If they're not the same, depending on how far they are off and how accurate you need to be, if they're not very far off and you're okay, then you're good to go. If you see it's off, you've got to go find what's my radius and where is it breaking. And you won't even take the templates. And this will work even if it's a serpentine. It doesn't care. You just break it up into arcs. You're doing a serpentine, you're going to take a measurement across the serpentine so you can stitch them back together. The stair from now. Not only does it go all the way around, it has a twin system. They say, but it's not dimensioned the same, but it's a twin system. It looks the same. So it's set across the thing. But in this case, what this does, it curves here, it curves back here, a new curve here, and a new curve here. Yeah. And the one on the other side. And then you notice this? Yeah. The tread is coming out past that, and you've got a transition to get over that. Air from out. And that's when you walk in and say, oh crap, I'm going to be here. And to do that, you've got to break it up, but make sure you can stitch it back together. You have reference points somewhere where you can put it back together when you get it on. And then they do it on the outside, and then they run into a wall. Come out on the wall and go on down and flare out again. Stem wall, same process. You get to a stem wall, it's got a curve in it, and you just do the same thing. Or radius. You got it. This is a big problem. You've seen this one. This is where you walked up the stair and the treads were pretty good. And the stem wall wasn't on it yet. You came back and you had the stem wall on it. You had to. So you gotta watch out for that. That is not code compliant. But it went through. It came back, said, you can't do this, you need to bring it back in and flow that. Now, let's go on, we'll waiver out, let's go on. Sure enough, the inspector let it go. But those are the things you gotta watch out. Alternatives, Dave Randall's gone. Dave Randall for the E-template was in here a minute ago. We were running late, so he didn't get to do it. He's doing a demo, right now. 11:30. Do my notes, 11:30. He's doing a demo of E-laser over in the thing.
11:30 to 12.
You all look at it. We have E-template. There's a number of others. There's photo modelers, there's ProLiner. I saw something go up on the listserv here back about somebody who bought ProLiner and they want to go somebody else. And there's a lot of others. So the measurement alternatives depend on where you're at in your process. If you're basic early, do it start one way and move forward. If you're beyond basic early, you want to go on, now's the time to step up the process. The one thing I would caution you, that's not wrong. The primary thing I would caution you when you're ready to take these steps, make sure the rest of your process is good. For example, if you get an E-template photo, and I can show you the output, unless you understand 3D, you're going to have a problem. Because everything comes in 3D space. It's like I put a bunch of dots in this room up in the air. You've got to be able to figure out where they're at and what's going on. And what you'll find, not only if you're not 3D, good at 3D, you'll struggle with that because when you strike an arc that goes up the stair, they make you do it in a splice. You can't offset a splice, so now you got to convert it back to something else. So it's not a painless process. It's a good process. It's accurate. It's not painless. You got to be ready. The other thing that you might find out is whoever's going to do your drawings, if they do autograph for you now or 2D drawings, check them to make sure they've got good spatial skills. A good way to do that is download a free copy of Google SketchUp, have them start drawing on it, and put a bunch of different stuff on there, make them rotate around, and tell you what they're seeing. You'll be really surprised. People start rotating things around to the backside and all that. They've got lost where they're at. And once you get into these advanced processes, you've got to have that intelligence. And like I say, we can show you some of the outputs. Pros and cons. This happens to be E-template. Somebody needed a quick shot. This is where it starts making you money. If you're going to template, they're putting a transit in that and they're putting it up inside with an 1/8-inch reel all the way around. Instead of going out and templating this thing, one guy goes out with a step ladder, puts the dots up, shoots it, 5 minutes later, we're going back to the office. Run it through the system and keep on. Here from hell. You see it stitched. I can't get it all in one E-template. You can see it stitched. I've got knots here, and the way this thing works is like GPS. It sees it from different angles. It calculates where the middle of that dot is, and it tells you exactly where the middle of that dot is. But also, it's only as good as the guy that's putting the dots there. But you'll see it stitched. The upper half of this, I can't get it all in one shot, so I'll leave dots in here, and I'll stitch them back together. Same way you do it if you're doing it manually. Get reference measurements so you can lay them back together and get where you octagon, they had these run rafter beams straight into that octagon. The octagon was not like you described earlier about getting the hold button on the Bosch protractor stuck. It was doing this. So we shot it with E-template. You could do that with a laser. You probably could do that with one of the D8s or D5s to get you there. If you set out far enough and just shot a corner, and did it from another direction, you could get the same thing. You just got to be a little creative. Very simple stair. Same thing here, if we were measuring this manually, we would do here to here, cord across, height down. One of the things we're starting to ask for now is give us the angle, the floor angle of the stair. Because we're getting to the point where we can start tackling some additional stuff now. Got that issue. But that's just a basic. Questions on basic measuring? Advanced measuring? Problems you're having? That's the other thing we need to talk about. Are the problems that you see or things you run into that are bounce across the group?
Does anybody in this room have issues with the Chinese tape being off a little bit? I'm serious. We're in the AIC shop, and the guys got to supply their own tools. They go and buy the, I'm not going to mention it, the Chinese tape. And we were having some problems. Started pulling the tape measures back against our template. Some of those Chinese tape measures are 16th off. So our guys either have to buy Stanley's or the U.S. brands and spend a little more money. But we've had a problem with it. Deviation.
One of the shops we toured in New Orleans, Manufacture, they have all their guys calibrate their tapes to start the week.
But we have to calibrate because we're AIC. But it's just something, you think you just be careful buying the Chinese tape measure, that's all I'm saying.
The problem is I can't figure out what I bought that's Chinese anymore, so yeah, I mean, that's true.
Have you much experience using total stations or, for doing a stair like that? I don't think it doesn't have the accuracy for it. And I've subbed out some surveying to companies that are using total stations. Very similar, you're getting points in 3D space, pretty reasonably priced. If you're doing exterior work, a lot of fence, a lot of rail, it's pretty sweet. And especially if you got changing elements, if you're moving in 3 dimensions, it's great.
Yeah, you go back. I mean, there's a lot of these out. One of the biggest things that started the photo laser thing, photo stuff, is accidents. They started taking shots at accidents from different directions, and that's what started that. That was what started that whole process. It started doing digital photometry because they could replicate what was happening at the accident of what they're measuring for. And one of the companies that I had up there is the company that started that whole deal. But there are cheaper versions. The more you have to table with what you need and what products that you're putting out. If you're doing 3-line pipe rail or you're doing a lot of commercial stuff and all that, you probably don't need one that can pick up that stair from hell. So you have to table that, and as you know, the better your accuracy, the more expensive it gets. The only provision I keep putting in front of you though, and I'll always keep doing this, and I keep telling the template people this, is you're talking to a group that can't put it in their CNC router and carve that helix. How are you going to get this to the shop floor? And I keep telling them that, and I keep telling them, you've got to show this, how that gets to the shop floor, and integrate with what we're doing. And that's your key problem.
The total station uses GPS coordinates, so you've got to be able to get a satellite signal. A lot of times, even if you're doing it on some interior, you have to set something outside where you have to get a satellite signal. And their accuracy, from the guys I've hired, they give me a plus or minus an 8. So, for a stair, that's not going to be your accurate number. But for what I've used them for, that was a hell of a lot more accurate than I could measure with the tape, and it was super fast. And I haven't looked at it in several years. You can get them starting at like 5,000, but the ones they're using are like $60,000 units.
And Will just said it, it's a hell of a lot more accurate than what you could have done before, and that's what you're after. Upgrade your accuracy, upgrade your stuff. Your mistakes at installation will drop. Your communication with your shop will be better. You'll have as many communication with your CAD guy on what was this measurement doesn't check with that measurement. I mean, it just smooths you out a little bit better. It doesn't take it away, but it smooths it. And it's expensive at the tail end.
Two questions. One, on the digital protractor and the smart tool. Do you really trust that for an accurate measurement? We've run into issues with that.
The digital protractor in the smart level?
Smart tool, yeah.
I don't trust anything.
I checked with the math.
Yeah, somebody was up here earlier and they said, well, when you use that, the laser, you go in. I hit it twice. I hit it again. If the reading's the same, I feel confident. If everything's different, I do it again. I don't trust anything.
Probably the smart tool, I can lay it down there and measure the angle. If I turn it around, it'll give me something for 10 off.
Yeah. But put that in perspective. You're a tenth of a degree off. Put that in perspective. The other thing you gotta watch out for is if you're doing curved stair or something like that, you can't lay a smart stair across a curved stair. Don't do that. You could use this. You can lay something across one tread to the other tread and use that and get a good angle. But once you transfer across two treads, you don't have a good angle on that stair. The other thing, and Mark alluded to it earlier, if you're doing a straight stair, because I checked the stair down here, doesn't mean four treads up that it's got the straight angle, because if I laid, Mark, how long is the bolt you carry? 5 foot. Yeah, I've got an 8-footer. I took 2 4-foot sections, 1x2 tube, and put a connection between them that I can break apart. And I put an 8-footer across, and I look for that rock. When you get the rock, you got to make a decision what you want. And typically what I do is I go top thread, bottom thread, I get the light down, and if I can, I ignore what's going on. Unless it's really bad. And like I say, you go into the Caribbean islands, some of their concrete's got seashell in it. So you kind of got a table what you really see.
I'm not sure I understand the dots. For instance, where you showed the picture of the stair from home, you have the dots on it. You have a piece of equipment that needs those dots. It gives you a three-dimensional spot where they are.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, go back to the wood stairs. It works similar to what Will described on our GPS. It's seen it from different directions, from different angles. So in this stair, there may be 12 to 20 photos from different angles. You know, you start at the top, you shoot it at an angle. It has to see it at an angle. It can't see it straight on. I'll be standing at the landing. This one I shot from the landing and got this way. I also put a ladder over here, got that one.
Did it make visual reference to the target?
Yeah, what it does is it gets all the shots from different angles, and you're using a high-resolution camera that has a fixed focal point. And they take the camera and they calibrate the camera to a computer program. If you drop your camera, you replace the camera, they've got to change your settings in your program. The E-Town part of the contract. So what happens is, as you shoot this, they're also you see this red bar right here? From that dot to that dot is exactly 46 inches. The camera will see that, the system will see that. It'll go in and it'll do its own, it'll calculate where all those are, and it'll put a dot in space at the middle of each one of those black dots, right in the middle. Also, you see they look like barcodes. Everyone's identified with a different number. And then you tell it, okay, that scale is 46 inches apart. It goes back through a gyration in the computer, uses statistics, and comes back and says, okay, this dot is at 121.345 X, 142.536 Y, 121.2 Z. Gives you X, Y, and Z down to 3 digits.
And when you took the pictures from the different locations, you didn't have to tell it where you were because it starts with the GPS?
Yeah, no, it doesn't care where you're at. You're just taking a picture and it's going to see it at different angles. It's going to say, I saw dot number 70 from up here, and it was that, and I saw that, and then I was over here and I saw dot number 70 from over here, and then I saw dot number 70 from here. It comes back and says, okay, dot number 70 is right there. It just works like a GPS, but that's basically what it's doing. Okay, so you don't have originally made for countertop. And I don't know where they're cut, or I don't know how it started. somebody figured out, crap, we can use this. This is not for us. This is something else. So what happened is, some of us got on this and figured out we could travel. We don't have to carry all our equipment. We can do it this way. It's very accurate. This system, I think I've got, if you got 4, we got 5. She knows that we just finished. We've had 5. It's outdated. The system that he's going to show you over there is replacing this. It's made by, it's used the heads from Leica, 3D Disto. They've done a computerized program behind the Leica system that gives you, and depends on what level you buy, it would actually draw some of the stuff for you. So I would encourage you that, but that's the next level, but it's not faint apart. You gotta have the volume, you gotta have something. And you better understand 3D. Dave,
Where's that run?
pretty much you?
Where's that run?
Yeah, ask them, I can tell you what this one was, but this was 2005.
5 years ago.
But we have probably 120 projects or more on this, so we more than made it. But we had the circumstance to do 120 projects with that system. If you don't have that, I mean, I just mentioned there's half a dozen shops around the United States that have this system that if you want to think about it, have them come out and shoot one for you, bring it into 3D, work with you a little bit, see how it works, see if it works for your particular deal. And it's not wrong. If it's template or like it directly or whatever, tell them you want it done. I mean, you got to put their feet to the fire because we got a guy that's got a $150,000 Faro scanner, a millworks guy that's been setting in his office and collecting dust because they don't know how to do it. $150,000. Well, and this will be the same way if you don't use it. Same way with the E-laser and all that. But this one's out there. Somebody came to me, in fact, Frank Finelli asked me here about 6 months ago, what would you do? I would not buy this system. I'll sell you this system. But this system and that system complement each other, so we're going to keep both up. We're going to use both of them because there's some things I can do with this system that I can't do with the other system. In other words, I can't. That system uses similar. I can't pick out a crack in a marble floor over there with that system because I'm using a laser dot and